A very good evening and welcome to yet another edition of the YES101's Visual Radio. For the News First team, I'm Jed Abdin. We start off with a look at your local news. President Anurukumar Dissanayake concluded his budget speech 2025 in Parliament today. Now here are a few key points from his speech. President Anurukumar Dissanayake said that even after servicing debt of $570 million with respect to the debt restructuring, the government has been able to maintain the foreign reserves at $6.1 billion at the end of 2024. The president said that a 5% economic growth is expected for 2025. He added that we believe that it is paramount of them to achieve economic sovereignty. Financial allocations have been prioritized rather in the 2025 budget. Public funds will be used in a manner that will benefit the public. The president also said that we expect the export of goods and services in 2025 to reach a record high of $19 billion. The 2025 to 2029 National Export Development Plan will be introduced. Focus will be directed on economic diplomacy. New Customs Act will be introduced and the existing act will be subject to amendments. New act will be introduced for public-private partnerships. Amendments will be made to the Economic Transformation Act. 750 million rupees will be allocated for a national quality management system. 1,000 million rupees will be allocated to upgrade the scanning devices at the Colombo Port and the Bandaranaike International Airport. A proposal to establish a digital economy authority. The president also said that we need to move away from the cash-based economy, and he added that we need to do that carefully and in phases with proper communication. He added that we need to introduce the necessary legislation and also not disrupt the economy in the process. Steps will be taken to expedite the commencement of the second terminal at the Karunaik Airport with Japanese assistance. In the next 5 years, Sri Lanka's digital economy is expected to grow to $15 billion or over 12% of the country's economy. 3,000 million rupees will be allocated to expedite the development of the country's digital economy. 1,000 million rupees will be allocated to establish an innovation and invention fund. Steps will be taken to expedite the introduction of the Sri Lanka Unique Digital Identity Card. All government-owned luxury vehicles that incur a massive maintenance cost will be auctioned in March. No vehicles or vehicle permits for MPs. 7,500 million rupees will be allocated to provide nutritional support for pregnant mothers. 604 billion rupees will be allocated for health in 2025. This is the highest ever allocation for the health sector. 1,000 million rupees will be allocated to improve school infrastructure. Students from low-income families who have passed the Grade 5 scholarship examination will receive an increased allowance of 1,500 rupees, up from 750 rupees. The Jaffna Public Library, 100 million rupees will be allocated for the upgrades. President says that 135 billion rupees has been allocated for the development of Sri Lanka's university system. In the energy sector, the proposed Sri Lanka Electricity Act will be introduced soon. Mahapula scholarship installment will be increased from 5,000 rupees to 7,500 rupees. 5,000 million rupees will be allocated for purchasing paddy during the Maha season. The president also said that we need to make decisions based on accurate data for all sectors, including agriculture. Given that Sri Lanka is an island nation and has limited land resources, lands should not be left underutilized. All these lands must be utilized and 250 million rupees will be allocated for the preliminary development. 2,500 million rupees will be invested for the development of the dairy sector in the country. 78,000 million rupees will be allocated for the development of the country's irrigation sector. The Northern Coconut Triangle has been identified and 500 million rupees will be allocated for its development. 232.5 billion rupees will be set aside for social welfare. Monthly allowance for the kidney patients will be increased from 7,500 rupees to 10,000 rupees. 1 million rupees in housing aid will be provided to orphaned children to build a house when they decide to marry. 1 billion rupees will be allocated for this purpose from the 2025 budget. The government has also proposed to allocate 250 million rupees for 2025 to implement a medium-term program to expand the awareness and counseling services for students and adolescents by the Ministry of Health in collaboration with the ministry. The government has also decided to provide a concessionary seasonal food package by allowing them to purchase essential food items at affordable prices as a supportive measure to reduce the increased cost of living, while the government is to allocate 1,000 million rupees to finance these rations, a more generous duty-free allowance for Sri Lanka's migrant workers as they return to the country. In special interest scheme for senior citizens, individuals above 60 years of age will be eligible for 1-year fixed deposits of up to 1 million rupees with an annual additional interest rate of 3% above the prevailing interest rates in the market for ensuring their financial stability. The government will also allocate 15,000 million rupees to subsidize the 3% additional interest to be paid for the senior citizens. In skills development program for convicted prisoners, the government proposes to conduct employable and marketable skill development courses together with vocational training institutions and award relevant vocational qualifications. For this purpose, the government proposes to increase existing allocation by 100 million rupees to implement this program. In bus sector modernization, a modern and comfortable fleet of technologically advanced buses will be introduced on a pilot basis. 100 air suspension, low-floor, comfortable buses will be deployed along 3 main road corridors within the Colombo city. The government plans to allocate 3,000 million rupees for the procurement of 100 low-floor buses. In addition to that, the SLTP will add 200 low-bed passenger buses for its fleet through its own funds. These buses will be operated under newly established companies collectively known as Metro Bus Companies or MPC. In railway sector modernization, the government proposes to allocate 500 million rupees to rehabilitate old railway passenger coaches. Government also proposes to allocate 250 million rupees for 2025 to the Department of Railways to initiate building new coaches aiming at fulfilling new passenger coach requirements within the country. And also for Sri Lankan Airlines to receive 20 billion for debt settlement, the government would sign an agreement with banks and set aside 10,000 million rupees for loan capital repayment in 2025 as well as 10,000 million rupees for interest payments. The airline would be fully responsible for ensuring operating profitability once these legacy debt service costs are settled by the government. A new medium-term strategic plan is being devised by the company towards this end. Accordingly, government proposes to allocate 20,000 million rupees for this purpose. In road infrastructure development, 3,000 million rupees for improvement and rehabilitation of rural roads, giving priority to roads that connect less developed rural villages, tourist destinations, industrial estates and economically significant places, in addition to the already allocated amount of 26,680 million rupees for the development of rural roads island-wide. 1,000 million rupee allocation to rehabilitation of rural bridges in addition to the already allocated amount of 1,000 million rupees for the development of the rural bridges island-wide. 5,000 million rupees for the rehabilitation and improvement of rural roads and bridges in the northern province. In uplifting the living standards of the Malayalam Tamil people, 7,583 million rupees has already been allocated to support the following initiatives. 4,260 million rupees is allocated for development of estate housing and infrastructure development. 2,450 million rupees is allocated for vocational training, livelihood development and infrastructure development of Malayalam Tamil youth. 866 million rupees is allocated for smart classrooms for schools in Malayalam Tamil community. 5,000 million rupees has been allocated for the Clean Sri Lanka program. And in efforts to mitigating elephant-human conflict, 300 million rupees has been allocated for improvement of approximately 5,611 kilometers of electric fencing, with 1,456 kilometers identified for refurbishment. Additionally, guard posts along the fence will be constructed, necessary equipment will be procured, and elephant habitats will be improved through invasive plant removal, better grassland management and enhanced water sources. 100 million rupees allocated to enhance the capacity of 270 officers including wildlife zonal officers, guard officers and B2 officers. 240 million rupees has been allocated as compensation for victims of such conflicts. Total budget for mitigating the elephant-human conflict is 640 million rupees. The president also proposed to hold a national cultural festival. This festival will be initiated in November and launched in December, which have the highest number of tourist arrivals to our country. This festival will be organized with the participation of the private sector, allocation of 300 million rupees for this purpose. In housing for artists and journalists with the assistance of the government of the People's Republic of China, 1,996 housing units are being constructed. Within this, an apartment complex comprising 108 housing units will be reserved from the Kottava Palaturuvat area for artists and journalists who make special contributions to cultural enrichment of our society. In completion of ongoing large-scale water schemes, the government will provide the funding requirement of 41,234 million rupees in a span of 2 years with available fiscal space. Accordingly, 20,000 million rupees is included in the national budget for the year 2025 to facilitate the completion of the above priority projects as equity contribution of the government. In vacancies in the public service, recruitment, promotions and transfers in the public service will be based on qualifications and skills free from political influence. 10,000 million rupees has been allocated for filing essential vacancies in public service. I beg your pardon, 10,000 million rupees rather has been allocated for filling essential vacancies in public service. Government will implement a strategic recruitment plan to hire 30,000 individuals in essential public service roles strictly according to the cadre vacancies starting from this year. Accordingly, they propose to allocate 10,000 million rupees rather for this purpose in 2025. And in public service salary increase, the government proposes to increase the minimum monthly basic salary from 24,250 rupees to 40,000 rupees by 15,750 rupees. Minimum annual salary increment rather of 250 rupees will be increased to 450 rupees. The total estimated cost of this salary increase is expected to be 325 billion rupees. Considering present fiscal constraints, it is proposed that this salary increase be implemented in phases. Of the total net salary increase, 5,000 rupees and 30% of the balance amount will be paid starting from April 2025, with the remaining 70% being paid in equal portions beginning in January 2026 and January 2027. Therefore, it is proposed that 110 billion rupees be allocated for the proposed salary increase in 2025. In private sector minimum wage increase, employees associations have already agreed to increase the monthly minimum wage to the private sector workers from 21,000 rupees to 27,000 rupees in April 2025 and to 30,000 rupees from 2026. For wages of plantation workers, the government will intervene to increase the daily wages of workers to 1,700 rupees. In revenue measures for the year 2025, the bulk of revenue gains is expected to be delivered by the liberalization of motor vehicle imports that took place on the 1st February 2025. Government has also decided to not pursue this year the imputed rental income tax that had been agreed by the previous administration. The tax policy measures are expected to deliver the required revenue to enable Sri Lanka to meet the revenue targets of 15.1% of GDP in 2025. Efforts will be directed towards digitalizing tax systems to reduce leakages and enhance transparency while minimizing human interactions in tax administration. In cashless economy transformation, Sri Lanka is moving towards a cashless economy as part of its broader digitalization agenda to formalize the economy and improve revenue collection. The use of point-of-sale machines across businesses, especially in VAT-registered enterprises, will be implemented as a key initiative to facilitate the digital transactions and reduce cash dependency. No elected or appointed official in this government will seek bribes or favors in return for doing or not doing their jobs. For more details on the Budget Speech 2025 by President Kumar Dissanayake, you can visit our official website www.newsfirst.lk. And up next is international news.
International news.
And shifting your attention towards news overseas. It's news in Singapore. Singapore's opposition leader Pritam Singh has been found guilty of lying under oath to a parliamentary committee. The charges against Singh relate to his handling of Raisa Khan, a former lawmaker from his party who lied to parliament in a separate case. The verdict in this high-profile trial comes as Singapore is gearing up for its next general election, which must be held by November. Singh's Workers' Party holds 9 out of 87 elected seats in parliament. In Singapore, any MP who can lose their seat or be barred from running for office for 5 years if they are fined at least $7,440 or jailed for more than a year. Up next is your update on sports.
Sports news.
Shifting your attention towards sports. Matthew Kuhneman will proceed with imminent tests on his bowling action despite a thumb injury ruling him out of Tasmania's Sheffield Shield clash with South Australia. 1 week after being cited by ICC officials for having a suspect action, Kuhneman was expected to return to cricket for Tasmania in Adelaide on Tuesday, but those plans have since been scuppered, with the spinner not medically cleared to play for Tasmania after the dislocated thumb he suffered in the Big Bash League. And with that, we wrap up this edition of the YES101's Visual Radio. For the Newsfirst team, I have been Gerard Abdin. Thank you for watching. Take care.